Mike Kelly.
The Mike DJ Kelly podcast. This is the Mike Kelly podcast.
Mike Kelly.
Bing bang bosh bosh, and we're off. So here we are again in our resilient bubble with yet another Fab 3 podcast. Just when you think things cannot get any worse, and then you realise you're on your own. You need to call the shots and learn how to cope. In our normal tongue-in-cheek, funny, scandalous, outrageous way, we try and make sense of what's going on in the world. And the new what 3 words are let Grandma threes. I wonder if there is such a location. So armed with no hot food or drinks, but copious quantities of alcohol and some dirty dripping sandwiches, let's go shouting and screaming and punching above our weight as we deliver another cram-packed audio adventure of the You're On Your Own Mate special bonkers edition of what we lovingly call the Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast. This is not any ordinary podcast. This is the Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Using Google to check a fact on SunaK, typed in SunaK, and Google changed my search term to snake. Sometimes you just have to admire how it works. Will there be any Christmas lights this year? And will Kate Bush be the Christmas number 1 with running up that bill?
On this week's podcast.
Coming up on the Shorter Than Short, cheap beer, Brandy Shapps, price increases, Freya, Ladbrokes, Sewage, competitions, and a whole lot more.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
Spent last Saturday afternoon in the Bowling Green Spoons with some friends, and I drank Ruddle's beer at £1.49 a pint. How do they do that? They even had staff, and more surprisingly, lights on. How do they do that for £1.49? Do they pay tax on it? How do they do it so cheaply? Is the government funding Tim Martin pubs as a way of keeping people warm? At the other end of the scale is a small bottle of non-alcoholic Beck's at another pub, which costs £2.80, which seems a bit steep, as no alcohol taxes are going to be paid on it.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Just wondering, do you think there is anyone with the name Matt Emulsion? I used to know a guy called Gordon Bennett. Do you think supermarkets, pubs, etc. will start charging a refundable £1 entrance fee just in case you're going in to enjoy the heat and lighting and not intending to buy?
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Let's have our first blast from Twitter. Jonathan Pye. It's always the ones born into a life of privilege who think they know everything about those who were not. Funny how Rishi Sunak never mentions the percentage of welfare claimants who actually have jobs but who cannot afford to pay their bills. Councillor Brian Wernham, my FOI request showed that only 5% of Levelling Up staff are employed in the North West. 70% are in London. Mrs. Nash. I booked a slot for a supermarket delivery this week, 25th of August, and populated it with the order I placed on the 23rd of July. It was £40 more for exactly the same items. Jamie Junkins. The criminal barristers that I know do crime despite the pay, not because of it. But after 10 plus years of cuts, the pay is so low that there aren't enough barristers to cover cases, and the criminal justice system is at risk. That is why they are striking, and I stand with them. Francis Nags. Is it too much to ask? How come if Johnson's got the big calls right, we're in such a shitty mess? Sheena. You are 78% more likely to be on the Antiques Roadshow if you own a pair of red trousers. Tony. As Alexis Sale said, austerity was the idea that the 2008 financial crash was caused by Wolverhampton having too many libraries.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
So, back to reality, and Grant Brandy Shapps thinks we motorists should be allowed to drive HGVs without any extra tests. Bicycles should have number plates and be taxed and insured. I'm sure a lot of our work colleagues make outlandish suggestions, but then maybe a helpful manager suggests counselling or some time off. Not for Granty Shapps, he's solving a rail dispute by sending out all the wrong messages. And what's this that's just come through from the BVRLA? The government has responded to the Law Commissioner's review into self-driving vehicles and is keen to introduce ASAP with a view to self-driving vehicles being on the roads in 2025. There's probably a reason why Zager and Evans had a hit with the song in the year 2025, if man is still alive. Watch out for singing mice, according to the Daily Mirror. Elvis Presley's DNA used in an experiment to genetically engineer Elvis mice hybrids.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
The off-gem energy cap. How does that work? A cap that does not actually cap anything. A lot of people using that ridiculous big hat that Boy George used to wear as a symbol of the energy price cap. You're on your own when it comes to the bills. Hurrah! I see the Good Law Project is planning to sue Ofgem over the price cap announcement. And even better, the Isle of Man government is planning to protect residents from this winter's 70% rise in tariffs. And just by the by, the new standing charges on a daily basis for energy mean you can run up quite a bill without using anything. And the other point is, most of our electric is made from renewable sources like wind and solar. How come the price has gone up? No war in Ukraine or oil or gas prices are affecting the costs. So why?
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
On a different note, the word procrastinate. What is that about? Am I the only one who did not know what it meant? I thought it was to shout your mouth off about something. Morning, Assistant Joyce. How are you today?
Fine, Mr. Mike. Have you been spending too much time in the sun? You look very brown.
Well, thanks. Yes, more time to spare now that we've ditched our landline and the EE internet and gone for the 5G broadband.
Very nice. So your internet connection is much faster.
It is, and as I do not have a credit card to turn off the parental controls, I don't spend as much time on it, as I cannot access the sites I used to.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Competition time. Name the song or the artiste. Never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. The lines again. Never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. Name the song or the artiste or both.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Reasons why Norway is famous: Brunost brown cheese, stunning fjords, spectacular northern lights, and now for Freya, the mischievous scamp of a walrus. I suppose in a way it's a bit like the international status of the UK. It's down off the scale at present. If you want to get in touch about anything to do with the Shorter Than Short podcast show, please use either of the following to contact us, or if you want to send your own stories or sound clips for the next episode, email hello@MikeDJKelly.co.uk or on Twitter @MikeKellyDisco. If you're new to the Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast, you can still get to hear all the previous episodes just by searching or shouting the Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
Today's do-gooders are the Royal National Lifeboat Institution at RNLI.org. Their volunteer lifeboat crews provide a 24-hour rescue service in the UK and Ireland, and our seasonal lifeguards look after people on busy beaches. Our flood rescue team helps those affected by flooding. RNLI crews and lifeguards have saved over 142,700 lives since 1824. But we're more than a rescue service. We influence, supervise and educate people too. Their community safety teams explain the risks and share safety knowledge with anyone going to sea or to the coast. And their international teams work with like-minded organisations to help tackle drowning in communities at risk all around the world. To be inspired or to find out more or to make a donation, head off to the Royal National Lifeboat Institution at rnli.org. Of course, it does prompt the question, why is the RNLI a charity? Seems to be an emergency service to me and should be funded as such. Sounds like the government's getting away with it big time. Mind you, you would imagine call-outs will be down due to less people being in the sea due to the amount of sewage being dumped by privatised water companies. A big well done to Fergal Sharkey for highlighting and continuing to highlight these problems. He's got a good heart. Boom, boom.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Let's hope they can make this stick. It's not just a TV show. Channel 4 is to feature 12 opinionated Brits in a new show called Make Me Prime Minister. Let's hope Jeremy Corbyn enters, although I suppose it will end up being Jackie Weaver, the lady on the parish council, who was told, "You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver, no authority at all." Watch out, Mr. Weather Forecaster, including John Ketley, currently on Boom Radio. I read in Hungary the head of the National Meteorological Service was fired after saying storms would miss the country's capital, Budapest. They didn't, and a firework display had to be cancelled. Talking of the weather, hello, and here's today's Energy 3 weather forecast. Today's weather will be bright sunshine and windy with northeasterly gales, so draft excluders down and curtains open to capture the light. This afternoon, occasional heavy showers mean you should be ready for water harvesting with your water butt attached to your drain pipe. Tonight, any showers will soon ease, and prolonged clear spells across the UK will mean temperatures dropping below zero. So it might be time to get the oversized thick blanket fleece lined Sherpa body hoodie on if you're planning to stay up watching TV. And why has everybody been moaning on about the excellent hot weather in August? Surely it is the time when we want hot weather. The last few Augusts have been disappointing, so why, when we get some decent weather, is everybody complaining? Save money and store the summer sun in our new Summer Sun compressed thermal churn with solar panel wraparound skin, the same size as a milk churn but very light in weight. Just place in direct hot sunshine and leave to fill with the summer sun, and the automatic compressor will pull in and compress those golden hot rays. Each churn holds 60 litres of sunshine, enough to heat a cold room for 1 week. You just press the expel trickle button when you want to heat a room with the stored heat. Works with summer or winter sunshine. Order yours now.
Mr. Mike, excuse me, this is important. Someone has sent an email.
Who is it from, and what do they want?
It's from Chris P. Bacon of Mad Dog Lane, Yorkshire, and they want to know if you are going to bring back the famous People's Impersonation spot. I don't remember that. Is it before I joined you?
Indeed it is, and yes, I will work on it before the end of the show.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Interesting to see Domino's has closed its branches in Italy after 9 years of trying to take over the Italian pizza market. Makes you wonder why the Italians did not take to it. Or does it? Does anybody know if candle sales are up due to possible power outages and energy prices? Listening to the When in Yorkshire podcast with Andy Farrow of the Northern Music Company and him recalling how in his younger days of being in business and covering the stamps on letters to prospective customers with soap so the post office stamp did not stick. In his letters, he would detail how to get the soap off and reuse the stamps.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
During a visit to the LGI hospital, noticed a couple of things. One was a waste bin that had a large label on it called offensive waste. Not sure what goes in it. Maybe it's where people put the Sun or the Daily Mail or political leaflets. On the same corridor, the seats attached to the wall had been donated by a charity. Does leave you wondering if there would be no seating if the charity had not donated. Save money with the new Wobbly Tums microwave toast. Buy your pre-cooked loaf and microwave a slice at a time. Just 3 seconds to microwave 1 slice. For a nice moist slice of toast hot enough to melt butter. Imagine how much money you will save by not using the toaster or grill. Just a few seconds in a microwave. That's all you need with the new Wobbly Tums microwave toast.
Microwave toast. What next?
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
They say if you're going to vote Tory, you need to have over 1 million. But my question is, do lottery winners have to vote Tory? Also, it's only £25, no checks carried out, to join the Conservative Party. Maybe more of us should join if it gives us a chance to vote on what they're doing or not doing.
Please note the information provided by the MIKEDJKELLY Shorter Than Short podcast is for information purposes only and should not be substituted for any type of professional advice. If you have any concerns, please consult with a qualified person or an adult.
Guess the celebrity. First name, Brian Alexander. He was born on the 12th of September 1956 and is a Scottish musician, actor, composer and songwriter. He had a string of hits in the late 1970s and early 80s, characterised by catchy pop tunes and jaunty humorous lyrics, most notably Bang Bang, a tongue-in-cheek commentary on famous historical and fictional couples. He co-wrote the Grammy-nominated and Ivor Novello award-winning The Living Years, which was a #1 hit in the USA, Canada, Australia and Ireland, and reached #2 here in the UK. He has also written music for films and been a television presenter. Who is he?
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Ready, Joyce?
It's the famous people's impersonation spot.
Exterminate! 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 This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
More from Twitter, Carol Vorderman. Even lies in the final speech from the Prime Minister who's brought the country to its knees. Boris Johnson has had many relationships through his life, but sadly for us, he's never had a relationship with the truth. Helen 1-1. Johnson was never close to death. As his nurses confirmed, he only received 4 litres of oxygen and was in a separate room for security purposes. Hannah Al-Offman. New Prime Minister Day comes around more quickly every year. Definitely loses its magic as you get older though. It becomes so commercialised. Dr. Julia Grace Patterson. I'm not listening to this farewell speech from Boris Johnson. I have absolutely no interest in hearing anything else he has to say. Chris Brookmeyer. As Truss succeeds Johnson, I'm reminded of the time I had norovirus on holiday. I had been racked by vomiting until I wished I was dead, and when it finally subsided, along came a merciless onslaught of diarrhoea. Michael Rosen. A PM always up for a quarrel. Was a specialist in things immoral. He found it uncouth to stick to the truth and ended up his reign in Balmoral.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
A lot of news bulletins on the radio sounding more and more right-wing, especially Sky News, always telling the story from the government's angle regarding strikes, prices and energy. And why does a daily naming of a Strictly Come Dancing competitor count as news? And on fake showbiz news, Ollie Murs admits he never knew ABBA were from Sweden. I thought they were Irish, he laughed. Jedward say NASA has made the right decision in delaying today's moon rocket launch following technical issues. If you're not 100% sure, you can't send it up, they told reporters. Jane McDonald lights up MTV MAs with powerful cover of moonpig.com. Andrew Neil named as new Love Island presenter following Laura Whitmore's departure. Fake showbiz news continues. Hugh Edwards returns to BBC News after serving a 6-week suspension for sneaking John Lennon song titles into his bulletin scripts. I've missed this job more than you can imagine, he told reporters. Kylie Minogue says surely it's now time to revisit her idea of forcing prison inmates to run along on a giant hamster wheel to generate cheap electricity for hard-working families. Ed Sheeran has his jail term for Galloway Girl increased from 20 months to 5 years after Court of Appeal judges ruled the original sentence was unduly lenient. And on that note, if you knew the political allegiance of a musician, would it put you off their music? In the blue corner, Jerry Halliwell, Tony Hadley, Craig David, Gary Barlow, Phil Collins and Rod Stewart. I think there's only Rod I would miss.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
On TV, what's with the commercial that says dirt is good, then goes on to try and sell you washing powder? Have you seen that advert for the car dealer that sells Jaguars and Land Rovers, and the salesman is Derek, yes Derek, and his beloved Spitfire? I don't believe he exists. Another song ruined by Maccadees using it in their commercial. This time it's Natalie Cole, daughter of Nat King, and This Will Be an Everlasting Love.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
You remember? Of course you do. The TV show Yes Minister. Yes Minister followed the ministerial career of Jim Hacker, played by Paul Eddington, his various struggles to formulate and enact policy or effect departmental changes are opposed by the British Civil Service, in particular his permanent secretary Sir Humphrey Appleby, played by Sir Nigel Hawthorne. His principal private secretary Bernard Woolley, played by Derek Foles, who was usually caught between the two. It just seems like what was a comedy show is now how real-life politics works. Be careful if you have a Ladbrokes betting account with any money in it. This is the email I received. Joyce, you read it.
Following our prior communications, we're updating you that your account is now being treated as inactive as it hasn't been used for 14 months. As of today, a £3 inactivity monthly fee is now in effect, which will continue until your balance reaches zero. Remember, you're on your own, mate.
Thank you. And what's on offer at Woucher? A 100-foot expandable garden hose with brass fittings, black sexy lingerie 4 styles, a black garden storage box 320 litres, mini celeb rapper inspired garden gnomes 5 styles, afternoon tea for 2, 4 persons upgrade at Gorse Hill City Farm, Zoom teeth whitening session at Greenwich. Enough, I say.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Don't forget, pod pickers, if you want to get in touch about anything to do with the Shorter Than Short podcast show, please use the following to contact us. And if you have any stories, gossip, jokes or anything for the next episode, email hello@mikedjkelly.co.uk, on Twitter @MikeKellyDisco. If you have time, it would be appreciated if you could give us a review at any of the usual feedback sites.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
In the late news, hyperinflation, bordering on a recession affecting us all. But who puts up prices? Where does it start? Everything is said to be caused by the Ukraine war affecting Russian gas supplies, of which the UK uses 4%. But who puts up the price first? You can see end users putting up prices if they are charged more for services or products. But who at the start of the chain puts up prices in the first place? Or is it all done on an airline type ticket basis? When demand is great, prices go higher and somebody just takes more money for a service that would cost less if the demand was not there. Remember, you're on your own, mate. If it's too much, don't buy it. On money, it's not just the education, Eton or Oxford, it's how much money you have. Enough money to make you better than everybody else. Enough money and you get the job or deal, however thick you are. Fascinating, in South Korea, some stores package their bananas together in various ripeness stages, so you can eat them over 7 days without them going brown. They're called one-a-day bananas. Barristers on strike are in the news, and in the book I'm reading, Nothing But the Truth, The Secret Barrister. A couple of quotes. If you can show that despite totting up 12 penalty points on your licence, disqualification would cause exceptional hardship, the magistrate can choose how to disqualify you. You'd be surprised how often courts are persuaded to find such hardships for millionaires who can easily afford chauffeurs. The Secret Barrister on Twitter, @BarristerSecret. What none of these ministers will do, however, is properly resource the criminal justice system so that victims don't have to wait for years for justice. Smoke and mirrors. There's never been a better time to be a criminal than under Boris Johnson. It took a while for the media to pick up on the pride of the Royal Navy, the £3 billion aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales, coming to a standstill just off the Isle of Wight. I'm not sure which is biggest, the Isle of Wight or the HMS Prince of Wales. Some say if there was a conflict, and with missiles as accurate as they are, the ship would be a sitting duck.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Final burst from Twitter. Mrs. Chicken's Fantasy League, PM @HackedOffHugh, Chancellor @Martin S. Lewis, Home Sec @Mr. James Obb, Business Sec @Deborah Meaden, Foreign Sec @Archer RS, DWP @Bootstrap Coke, Health Secretary @Mike Goldsworthy, Brian Davison. So we are in the midst of the worst UK drought for 46 years and water companies are blaming heavy rain for sewerage spills? Tariq Panja. Here's Qatar's national sponsor, David Beckham. He's still not said a word about what attracted him to this particular project and has so far shied away from events where he could be asked questions. Peculiar situation. Buck Frexit. If you leave a dog poo on the coast, it's £1,000 fine for you. If you're a water company and pump millions of litres of raw sewage onto the beach and into the sea, no problem. Tory MPs will vote to allow you to do so.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
If you want to get in touch with this top-rated and sometimes much-listened to podcast, please contact by email hello@mikedjkelly.co.uk, on Twitter @MikeKellyDisco. Indeed, if you want a podcast making for your business or need any help with radio producer or presentation or travel news, voiceover work, please get in touch. Tell your friends about the podcast. All they need to do to find it is search on Google for the Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Okay, it's time to go. Name the song or the artiste. Never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. Name the song or artiste or both. It was the Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin. Procrastinate, to delay or postpone. To delay or postpone action, put off doing something. Guess the celebrity, First name Brian Alexander. He was born on the 12th of September 1956 and is a Scottish musician, actor, composer and songwriter. He had a string of hits in the late 70s and 80s, characterised by catchy pop tunes and jaunty humorous lyrics, most notably Bang Bang, a tongue-in-cheek commentary on famous historical and fictional couples. He co-wrote the Grammy-nominated and Ivor Novello award-winning Living Years, which was #1 in the USA, Canada, Australia and Ireland, and reached #2 here in the UK. He has written music for films and been a TV producer. Who is he? Brian Alexander was B.A. Robertson. Today's do-gooders are the Royal National Lifeboat Institution at RNLI.org.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
In this, our special You're On Your Own Mate podcast, remember, it's not just you who is on their own. So is the United Kingdom. The rest of Europe and the world are not in the same mess as we are. So who's to blame? Guess what? That's enough for this You're On Your Own Mate edition of the crazy Shorter Than Short podcast show. From me, Mike Kelly.
And me, Joyce.
And remember, you can always find the podcast by searching or shouting Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
Mike Kelly.
The Mike DJ Kelly podcast. This is the Mike Kelly podcast.
Mike Kelly.